with God you're free, and you're smiling down at me. Let your voice in the wind guide my sails till the end, leading me, my friend. Let your light shine with the suns to help me see.
Hi, welcome back everyone. I am certainly glad you could join me today for episode 8 of the series. Today we have a mix by Blue Tape Studios once again. The name of the mix, or the name of the song, is One More Time, and it's by a band named Embers of the Fallen. I've got my standard lineup today of plugins. We'll begin over here with the metering plugins that I have. First of all, we've got the Presonus VU meter, and I have that, as always, calibrated to a scale of 6 with the sensitivity all the way down. And I'm following that with VUMT from Klanghelm. And the 0 VU indicator here is calibrated to -10 dBs FS. You don't have to use both of these. You could use either one if you've got something else besides these. If you don't have these two, it doesn't matter. You can use whatever you want. Just make sure that 0 VU is calibrated to -10 full scale. Okay, now the plugin chain. We have the Slick EQ from Tokyo Dawn. I have this configured slightly differently than the default. I set this to insane, it's just better quality. And I turn off EQ gain for this because I don't like to have it on, personally. If you'd like to leave it on, that is totally up to you, but I do not like it. I have the display turned on as well, and all of this is at the default settings. Now, this does have a free demo that you can download from the Tokyo Dawn Labs, Tokyo Dawn Records website. And it's great, except the demo does not retain any settings. You'll have to reconfigure this thing every time you reopen the plugin with a new session. Following this, we have the MJUC Junior from Klanghelm. This is all default. Make sure time constraints is at slow, and we're not really even going to touch this. This is the only thing we'll be adjusting later. Now the pink compressor, the Decam Free Comp from F-Expansion, we'll be using this to subtle effect. Just make sure that these 3 gain knobs are all nulled out at 0. You have your gain reduction turned on, ratio 2, attack is all the way up at 30, and we'll begin with the threshold at 20 here because it's not doing anything at this setting. And we'll be pulling this down a little bit too later. Okay, finishing off the chain, I have limiter 6. Now, all of this is at default except for this module over here on the right. I want to make sure that I turn this on. This is all the way up, as opposed to this, which is the default. So just give it 2 nudges up, and make sure your ceiling is at -2/10, and you're good to go. Okay, now, one of the things that I always like to say when I'm talking about the mastering process is that it doesn't make sense to go through here and make adjustments to compression and EQ before you set the final level. It's very logical to me to make these adjustments when the track is at the final level that it's going to be set at for the render or the bounce. So we'll kind of work backwards here. We'll start by setting the level. We'll work down into the compression. We'll make sure that we get as much punch out of the track as we can. And then we'll go through and we'll just tweak the EQ and then go back through and make sure that our compression settings hold up. But I want to make sure I do all of this at the level that the goal is to give us a loud and clear master, and we want to make sure that we make all of these adjustments at that level so we're not deceived by level changes later on in the process. So let's go ahead now and take a listen to the mix. I will play it through most of the way. I'll skip around a little bit. But what I encourage you to do at this point is to go ahead and listen to the mix straight through at least 1 or 2 times just to get a feel for it. And as always, pay attention to things like EQ balance and compression. All right, so let's get this started.
You're holding hands with God, you're free, and you're smiling down at me. If I could see you one more time, if I could see you one more time, if you could sing to me from heaven, I'd sing back to you, I'd sing back to you. Our worlds together, a melody, our hearts intertwined. This one last time, one last time. Let your voice in the wind guide my sails till the end, leading me, my friend. Let your light shine with the suns to help me see what has begun. A life wanting, sing back to you, sing back to you. Our worlds together in melody. When I saw the shooting star through the sky, I knew that it was you. If you could sing to me from heaven, I'd sing it back to you, I'd sing back to you. A world's time, this one last time.
All right, I'm going to say a couple things about the EQ here. Now, to me, it sounds a bit dull. So one of the things I want to make sure I do when I get to the EQ stage is to bring out a lot of the clarity and detail that's in that high end, the top end. And when I say top end, I mean like the top half, from about maybe 900 hertz to 1K and up. I think it just needs a slope, a gradual lift in the upper mid region. And the bottom end sounds fine. I think we can get lots of punch out of the kick drum and make it sound really nice. So let's go ahead and set that level first. And I'll set the level in 2 ways. With limiter 6, I can do it with the compressor module and with the limiter module. So I'm going to go ahead and find one of my louder sections, which would probably be this area here. Just go ahead and set a loop. And I'll play through this. I'll play through this and set the level here. That way I know that everything else will fall into place.
If you could sing to me from heaven, I'd sing it back to you, I'd sing back to you. Our worlds together in melody, hearts intertwined. This one last time, this one last time.
Okay, I think this is a good place to start. We have about 1 dB of compression happening. I slowed the attack down to about here, which is fine. And I have a ratio of 1.3 to 1. Over here, I'm doing about 3, maybe 4 dBs. Now you can only see up to 3 dBs on this meter, but if you just click here, you can change this over to a larger range, and I can see up to 4 now. So let's actually play this again and just check and make sure that we're not going over 4, because I think anything over 4 is a little overkill.
You could sing to me from heaven, I'd sing it back to you. I'd sing back to you. Our worlds together in melody.
It still looks good. We'll be getting a little bit of gain from the equalizer later, so I'm not going to worry too much about this now. It's a good place to start, and we've got pretty much a finalized amount of level here, amount of gain to produce the finished master. So let's go back through now to the compression, and we'll just dial in a little bit of this so that this is just skimming the top. This will help to warm up the track a little bit.
To me from heaven, I'd sing it back to you. I'd sing back to you. Our worlds together in melody, hearts intertwined.
You want to get it to this point right about here where you can hear a noticeable difference when you bypass, but the needle's not actually doing anything. So right now what I have is no movement on the needle, but when I bypass the power switch, this is clearly lowering the volume a little bit. I am getting some compression, which is just enough to warm up the track a little bit, and that's what I'm looking for.
If you could sing to me from heaven, I'd sing it back to you. I'd sing back to you.
It's a very, very subtle difference, but it's there, so I know it's working. Now with this one, I want to do essentially the same thing, but I am looking for a little bit of movement on the needle. In other words, I want the needle to point at this 0. As you can see, it's pointing a little bit past the 0 right now. But if I can get that needle pointing at the 0, that's generally a good place to start, and you can tweak from there. Okay, so we'll leave that there for now. And again, we're not touching any of these other controls. All of this stays just where it is, okay? We want a subtle ratio here. We don't want anything too extreme. And we want a really slow attack to let those transients through. The release on this guy is automatic, so we don't even have to worry about it. All right, so let's pull up the equalizer. Now this is where we're going to spend most of our time. We don't necessarily need the louder section of the track for this. I want to make sure that all of the parts of the song are actually balanced, and it should be pretty easy to do this because Eddie's mixes are very, very well balanced, and even though this one needs to be a little bit brighter, I don't feel like I need to send it back to him and say, hey, you need to fix this. Like, that's too bright, you know, whatever. It sounds pretty well balanced within itself, so all we need to do is bring out that clarity in the top end. So let's go ahead and work on that first.
Let your voice in the wind guide my sails till the end, leading me, my friend. Let your light shine with the suns to help me see what has begun. A life wanting to hold on to you. If you could sing to me from heaven, I would sing smiling down at me. If I could see you one more time.
Okay, this is a pretty good start for the top end. I'm looking for a slope like this, but I don't just want to use a shelf. I think that it's nice to have it coming down here because there's a lot of high energy way up here that I don't want to overdo. So that's why I've got this kind of a curve going on. And it really helps to have the display active if you're just learning how to do this because you can see what you're doing. Not all equalizers have this nice little graphic readout of what you're doing, but most of the ones that are readily available do, which is nice. Okay, let's go ahead and work on the bottom end now. Now that we've lifted up the top a little bit, I feel like we can put some more kick in that kick drum. Somewhere between 60 and 80 maybe. Let's go for something around 70, 75 and see what we get.
Let your voice in the wind guide myself till the end, leading me, my friend. Let your light shine with the suns to help me see what has begun. A life wanting to hold on to you. If you could sing to me from heaven, I would sing back to you, sing back to you. Our worlds together in melody, our hearts intertwined this one last time. When I saw the shooting star through the sky, I knew that it was you. If you could sing to me from heaven, I'd sing it back to you. I'd sing back to you. Our worlds together in melody, our hearts intertwined this one last time. This one last time. This one last. Let your voice in the wind guide myself till the end.
Okay, that juices up the kick drum a little bit, makes it nicer. Now let's go back and check our equalization because we have increased the volume here. Now again, this is where it becomes a matter of preference. If I turn this unity gain thing on here, it will automatically adjust the volume coming out of this equalizer going into the compressor. There is an advantage to doing that, and there's also a disadvantage to doing that. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to leave it off so that I can hear what I'm doing, as opposed to this, when I turn this up, everything else goes down, and for some reason that doesn't click in my head as easily as this does. I like hearing exactly what I'm doing, and I don't like hearing the opposite of what I'm doing at the same time. So let's just go back through and check our compression.
Leading me, my friend. Let your light shine with the suns to help me see.
Okay, this one looks good. I'm still not seeing any movement on the needle, and I've done nothing but increase the volume, so I know that this is still adequate. This should still be working pretty well.
In the wind, guide myself till the end, leading me, my
Okay, that looks good.
friend. Let your light shine with the suns to help me see what has begun. A life wanting to hold on. Far through the sky. If you could sing to me from heaven,
Okay, everything sounds good, everything looks good. The meters indicate that I've got a healthy level. And I could call this finished right now, but you know me. There's always a little bit more I can do. For instance, we can widen the top end and make those guitars pop a little bit more, just to give it a little bit more vibe. And I'm going to do that with these controls right here. So let's go ahead and do that.
Your voice in the wind, got my sails till the end, leading me, my friend. Let your light shine with the suns to help me see what has begun. A life wanting to hold on to you. If you could sing to me from heaven, I would sing back to the sky. I knew that it was you. If you could sing to me from heaven, I'd sing it back to you. I'd sing back to you. Our worlds together in melody, hearts intertwined. This one last time.
I like the way that sounds throughout, especially from one section to the next. This is much quieter. Obviously, this is a little bit louder. We could go through and actually automate this to actually accentuate that even further, but I really don't think we've had to do enough compression to warrant that. I don't think it's necessary here because the track's compressed already very well, and we didn't really have to squash this too much. We have been doing at most 4 dBs of compression on those drum transients. So we really haven't changed the dynamic of the overall track too much, and I really don't think automation is necessary in this case. But if you want to go ahead and experiment with that, you can. Just make sure that you always keep the integrity of the track in mind when you're doing that. All right, so I am going to go ahead and call this done. Remember, this is a basics course. If you want more detail, than what I've been showing you here, there is another video that I've made that goes into much more detail. It's actually mastering the track multiple ways with different plugin chains, different sets of plugins to get the same result that we got here, but using different plugins. And the point of that is, of course, to demonstrate that it doesn't matter what you use, it's how you use it, how you use your tools. And those videos are available for sale on my website, and I'll put the link in the description to that if you're interested. And we will be back again next week with another video. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be doing next week, but it'll be cool nonetheless. All right, so I will see you next time. Once again, thanks for watching. Like the videos, comment if you want. Subscribe to my channel. If you have any ideas for the show, or if you have a song that you'd like featured on the show, go ahead and send that to me. Give me the information and I'll make it happen. Okay, so until next time, happy mastering.
If you could sing to me from heaven, I'd sing back to you. I'd sing back to you. Our worlds together in melody, our hearts intertwined.